Welcome to The Recurring Plot, presented by CURBNTURF. On this show, we interview agritourism farmers, authors, leaders, and influencers who share their insights on growing and monetizing your agrotourism business. Here's your host, Dustin Reed.
Hi, welcome back to The Recurring Plot. Today we have a dynamic duo of Tom and Caitlin Morton of the Mortons on the Move joining us today. From leaving behind their stationary life in Michigan to becoming full-time travelers, their journey is nothing short but inspiring. We'll dive into their RV experiences, discussing their life as RVers, and a sneak peek of their newly released movie, Go North, which is available on their website, mortonsonthemove.com. So buckle up and get ready to explore the world on wheels with Tom and Caitlin. So how you guys doing today?
We're doing good. How are you, Dustin?
I'm doing great. I'm excited because I'm going to let our audience know this is something that I actually been following you guys for a couple of years now. And I'm really surprised when you guys came up. I was actually doing another interview and we talked about this before where I just got the schedule of you guys being on the podcast. So I was kind of like, I was reacting during that podcast. So it's really cool to have you on. So for those that don't know you, can you kind of describe how you started your journey as becoming full-time RVers? Because it's obviously an interesting one for those that don't know.
Sure. Well, I'm Caitlin.
I'm Tom.
And our last name is Mortons, hence the Mortons on the Move. So we have been full-time RVers since 2015. And we hit the road from Michigan was our home point at the time. We had a house, we had cars, we had horses and all this stuff. And we just decided that wasn't fulfilling for us anymore. We were both in corporate jobs and we wanted to take a sabbatical. We really didn't see this as being a long-term thing. We were initially planning for just a year or two, but we just fell in love with the travel lifestyle and worked our way to develop a business, sharing that journey with everybody else who was interested, and we haven't stopped.
Yeah, we didn't start off thinking that we were going to hit the road, though. We wanted to make a change, and we were thinking of moving somewhere else to feel out something different. We just didn't know where that was or what it might be. But one thing we really did know is that we were really sick of the Michigan winters, and particularly where we lived. It just didn't. We love being outdoors. We love the sun, and it just wasn't working out for us.
And right now we're in Florida. We come down here quite regularly in the winter time because the weather is pretty great. And we were in Florida at the time visiting family, and we flew back to Michigan, landed in Detroit in a blizzard, and had to drive 2 hours home in said blizzard. And we were like, why did we come back? We're like, we should have just stayed in Florida. And we kind of just started spitballing this concept of like, wouldn't it be great if you could just like move with the seasons? There's got to be a job or something out there that we could do where we could, be south in the winter, be north in the summer, kind of have the best of both worlds. And that's when we drove by an RV dealership.
Yeah, I turned to Caitlin and I said, aren't those things like homes on wheels? You could drive it south. And by the time we got home, we had decided we were going to buy one of those RV things that we knew very little about and go travel. And that's
and it really was like within 2 hours, we had gone from like, being miserable, landing and going back to our, stationary life with our house and our careers and stuff, and we were like, nope, we're selling it all, we're hitting the road.
Took about a year and a half, but we did it, and life's been an adventure ever since.
I'd imagine that'd be the toughest part, just because you're selling everything, right? And then you're downsizing to basically your the essentials. So what was the hardest part of just downsizing, or was there any hard part in that journey of just kind of becoming, taking that leap?
Massively difficult.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult. And when we first started this, we thought we would take everything with us.
Well, we thought we would take a lot of stuff
as much
with
as we
us.
could. So we bought the biggest rig we could, a big toy hauler fifth wheel with a garage in the back. And
we loaded it up.
We packed a motorcycle in it. I was flying paramotors at the time, so I had these flying machines in it. We were going to take everything with us.
Yeah, and then, we learned the pretty common mistake of RVers is that we were way too heavy, way too heavy. And
first time we pulled it, we just felt the truck was just like, no. So we actually put it on a scale at one point. You know, those trucker scales you see on the side of the road, not the public ones, but like a CAT scale at a fuel station or something. And we realized we were just way overweight on everything.
So downsizing was several iterations for us. So you put it that way. And it's very difficult because you're like letting go of things that you've accumulated your life. You know, we didn't have as much as many other people, you know, who are older than us when they decide to hit the road, but it was still difficult. But, you know, it was just kind of this reminder of like, hey, you know, this is very intentional. We weren't happy with all of this stuff. This wasn't bringing us joy. So letting it go is very cathartic and part of that transition.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about stuff bringing you joy, and a lot of it has to really do with your experiences in life and your experiences, you know, especially as a couple and as an individual. So it's really cool that you guys, you know, really discovered that, and it kind of really hones in on, you know, that these are, because it's just stuff, right? It's just, you know, it's really, you know, it's going to come and go. It's going to, you know, but those memories that you guys make are priceless in in and of itself.
I'm sorry, I have a dog on my lap moving around. This stuff, we've really discovered that one way to retain that emotional connection to stuff is just to take a picture of it right before you get rid of it. And occasionally we scroll back in our old photos, and we did that with a lot of the stuff that we got rid of from our house. And it's kind of fun to look at those things, and even though I know those things are gone now, I still get that same mental like feeling of, oh, I owned that thing, and it brought me joy at the time, but we don't have to physically deal with it around anymore. So that's been kind of a little trick that we've used a lot in our downsizing, which has worked out well for us.
Yeah, that's really great. That's because you guys have, like, you've gotten from smaller, and then I think you've gotten bigger recently, right? And so it's just kind of like you guys kind of have this spectrum, which is great, because then you could speak on, you know, because you guys done overlanding, so you've done quite a, you know, you've traveled all around the world, been to Canada, Europe, New Zealand, Mexico, I believe, right? And so you guys, you know, have been living this nomadic lifestyle that's kind of shaped your perspective and on how you travel and live. And what I think, has that always just kind of been an inspiration?
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, there are times where we're like not super jazzed about living on the road, or like the traveling just gets exhausting. And so it's taken us quite a while, but we've kind of realized that, you know, let me just back up and say that for the first 2 years of our full-time RV life look nothing like our current full-time RV life. So those first 2 years, you know, we did kind of have the mentality of like, this is going to be a 1 to 2 year thing. So we have to cram everything in these 1 or 2 years. And we put on so many miles, and I don't think we stayed in one place for longer than a week or two, like max.
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
We were experiencing the world like we'd never seen before.
Yeah. But, you know, to do that kind of, to actually live this way, like that was not sustainable for us. So we did kind of fall into this pattern of, you know, what do we need? You know, there were things that we missed, you know, family, friends, back home, like a home space. So we've kind of figured out over the years what we need. And I think that's really important for anybody who is dreaming about the full-time RV life, is that it's not going to be sustainable to, you know, go 100% all the time. So we've really kind of figured out like, okay, we like being stationary for a couple of months at a time. And then by the end of that, you know, maybe 2-3 months, we are so itching to travel again. And then we travel like crazy for 2-3 months, maybe more. And then we're exhausted again. And we have to sit down and stay in one place for 2 or 3 months.
But being in the RV and pretty much ready to go at any moment allows us to fulfill that whim of travel, kind of again as it hits us. But we're on a piece of property that we own in Florida, and we've got one in Michigan too. So we've got these home bases that we can seasonally be at, and then the adventure can happen in between. And I think that the travel itself, though, has inspired us to want to travel even more. The first couple of years on the road, like we said, we thought it was just going to be a kind of a shorter term thing, but the things we experienced, the places and the people we got to meet, and it taught us something that you can't learn without travel, without physically going somewhere new, meeting new people, new cultures, new everything. And I feel like we just feel like it's missing if we can't do that semi-regularly.
Right.
So travel spawns more travel.
Yeah. And like I said, like if we sit still for any length of time, we start getting the bug again, and we were then planning the next trip. Or I mean, honestly, we've got trips planned for the next like 2-3 years of like places we want to go. So when we talk about like settling down or anything, it's always kind of like well, then we'd have to give up all of those dreams, and we're just not ready to do that. Right. So we're still traveling.
That's great. That's awesome. I love what Tom was saying, that you basically get to have that adventure in between that, which is something really cool to think about. And a lot of people do that with snowbirding, obviously, where they're experiencing the same thing you are with seasonality and stuff like that. Just that's pretty common with full-time RVers. You guys mentioned some advice earlier. I love the idea of just taking a photo of something, especially have an emotional attachment of. I love that advice. Is there any other advice that you give for someone considering, full-time RVing, like doing this lifestyle? What other advice would you give?
Oh, there's probably like a million things that we could say.
We have an entire website about this.
There's so many things. I think one of the things, it's easier said than done the first year or two, but really to set yourself up for not getting burnt out. I think a lot of people hit the road, with this, idea in their head of what it's going to be like. And to avoid burnout was something we had to learn the hard way. Is like, you need to give yourself time, stay in a place for probably a day or two longer than you think you're going to need to explore it. Take longer to get to that place. In a car, you can knock out a 9-hour drive, but in an RV, that's rough. So like drive 2-3 hours, stop, stay the night, maybe stay 2-3 nights, and then keep going. Cause otherwise it's RV living. It's not trips, it's not a road trip. And right. I think the adrenaline push on a trip and like cramming everything in is a much different feeling than living an RV lifestyle and like taking your time and going slow and seeing the places in between the destinations. That's really where we've had a lot of joy in our travels, is slowing down and you finding something that's like you would have never found if you hadn't stopped at that little town for a little while. And it's a town you've never heard of. And oh my gosh, they've got like this really cute, orchard, or this brewery, or this winery, or this antique store. And you make memories out of things that you never even knew existed in the world.
I think the piece of advice that I would give as well is that you also have to be prepared for the mechanical side of RVing. RVs they're I think people have gotten used to sort of the reliability of our automobiles and such, and an RV is nothing like that. It's the combination of a house strapped to a chassis that's barely welded together, kind of a thing. They have problems, and I think you have to be prepared for that and expect that you are going to have tire problems, engine problems, drivetrain issues. And I think some people get into it not expecting these things, or expecting their RV to last like their car. And that can really, really ruin it. And if you don't have to be a super mechanical aptitude type person, but you have to be willing to at least dive into these issues as they arise, because they will arise. We love to tout this lifestyle, but will by no means say that an RV is a solution to all your problems. It
comes with its own set of challenges for sure. We were actually we visited Elkhart, which is RV capital USA. Mm-hmm. Pretty much all the big manufacturers are there, and we did a couple of tours, and we were just thinking like, this would be really great for anybody who's wanting to full-time RV, because you actually see how the wires are run, how the floors are built, so that when there is a problem, you actually have a mental image of the skeleton of your RV, and you maybe at least know the components enough to know where to start looking.
And secondly, do a lot of research on what you're going to put together, because these things are, I mean, the dealer probably doesn't really know the best setup for your truck trailer combo and things like that. And we know a lot of people that have hit the road with the wrong set. We did, right? We were overweight. We had the wrong truck and trailer.
Right.
And to be honest, when we hit the road, the trucks aren't as powerful and big as they were today.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will get on the road and something will be wrong. They'll be overweight, and that will cause even more problems. Yeah. Because to be honest, most of these RVs are not designed to be lived in full time, and living in them full time wears them out, puts too much weight and stress on them, and it causes even more problems.
Which is such a huge bummer, because then a lot of people get disenchanted by the lifestyle and they go home brokenhearted, or they've thought like, okay, I just sold my house, I've gotten rid of all of the things that were important to me for this. And that's like, nobody wants that to happen. And we you know, it makes us so sad when people tell us that, like, they've just had struggle after struggle and they weren't, you know, expecting all of those challenges. Fortunately for me, Tom's an electrical engineer. He's extremely handy. So I brought my mechanic with me on this journey, which was very, very smart in hindsight.
Literally disassembled one of our RVs down to the engine and the chassis. And I mean, it was not, that's a common thing. Don't let me say that.
Right.
But we're willing to like really dive into the issues.
Yeah.
So.
Right. I mean, you have the experience to do that, or the know-how at least. And then I love your suggestion, Kate, of just taking your time. And because I think a lot of people, especially if they're doing vacationing, they're just, you know, it never feels like a vacation, especially when you're in an RV. You're just stressed for time, you're stressed for everything else.
Take time to explore the in-between. I think that's
and a lot of times, you know, those are the places that, like I said, you find unexpected experiences that can be even more important than, you know, oh, hey, we're going to Disney World for a week, you know, and, you know, that's our big thing. But it's like, oh, on the way to there, we stopped at this little town and we found this really cute coffee shop, and like, that's the memory that.
Or even
like,
natural places, state parks, community parks. Oh. There's just incredible things that aren't really on anyone's radar. And it can be an amazing experience.
Like, I know, Dustin, you're in Idaho. Idaho was such a surprising state to us because, you know, I think anyone not from Idaho or hasn't been to Idaho thinks like potatoes, right? Yeah. Like, well, they grow potatoes there, but then you go there and you're like, oh my gosh, the Rocky Mountains take up this entire state.
Snake River Valley.
And like
Snake River. Oh my gosh.
The national monuments.
We could go on and on about the in-between in Idaho that we just loved.
We stayed in between Grand Teton National Park, which, you know, is a big, you know, draw for a lot of people, and Idaho Falls, you know, along the Snake River for like a week and a half. And it was just
magical
amazing.
Experience.
It was amazing.
But most people consider it the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, most people would want to be like in the national park. But like when I think of our stay at Grand Teton, it was like, oh my gosh, we were cramming in all these hikes and all this stuff. And yes, it was gorgeous. But then like you go outside of that area just an hour and plunk down and you're just in this beautiful wilderness and it's so peaceful. And like, that's the memory that I have from that area. Like, yeah, I'd go back to Grand Teton and Yellowstone in a second, but I would also be definitely going to that spot we found on the Snake River and just chilling out for a couple weeks.
Yeah. And that's cool that you guys have those experiences, because we, as an Idaho, we try to keep it a secret, right? Because I mean, that's kind of like
spilling the beans here.
No, it's good, because I think everyone knows now, because almost all of California moved to Idaho. Not all of California.
Oh no.
But it's just good. I mean, it's great because it gives it the exposure that the state should get, and then it ends up kind of being that corridor to Yellowstone. You know, all this because obviously your experience. You could probably say this for almost 50 states at this point in some countries, and you know, which is cool. And these is like your Rolodex of memories that you have on file. You traveled internationally, and I don't think a lot of people with RVs, you know, and a lot of people never done that. So what if someone's looking to do something like that? What would be something you'd share with those unique challenges in traveling internationally with an RV, or what kind of been your experiences with that?
So we were fortunate enough to be able to go with some friends who had done it before. So I think that is also, if you know somebody who has done it before or has been to that, at least been to the country before, to kind of go with you, that's always like a nice gateway in.
Particularly if there's a language barrier.
Particularly. But like, so for our first international experience, we went to New Zealand.
Well,
and
we went to Canada first.
I suppose.
And we crossed the border ourselves. I'd say
and that one was pretty, that one was.
Border countries are kind of an easy way to dip your toe into
Absolutely.
it a little bit. You can take your own RV.
And Canada is gorgeous. Like, probably same thing as like Idaho. Like, once you get north, like especially BC, we did first. Oh my gosh, it's just gorgeous up there. Yep. And everybody's very friendly and they speak English. And
so you sort of start learning, like, okay, what's a border crossing look like? What are the things we have to learn and do for that? And then Mexico's another challenge. It's a little bit
the language.
You got the language. There's a little bit more paperwork to cross the border and stuff. But to be honest, it's still really pretty simple to travel in Mexico with your RV and stuff like that.
But then, like, to go overseas and like do a rental, we've done New Zealand and Europe now. New Zealand was an interesting challenge because we were driving on the other side of the road and the other side of the vehicle, which was fun. But that was pretty easy because they all spoke English, very awesome accented English. And
you can lean on the rental companies to sort of like learn a lot of things. We actually learned a lot of really kind of the neat out of the way things and stuff from the rental company because they want you to have a good time as well.
I think what happened, we realized when we were doing New Zealand, is I think when you go and you fly into a place, you can't, and maybe even you rent a car, but you're kind of like, you have a base and you have to just go off from that home base area. And what we found with the RVs is, like, you bring up a map and you see a squiggly road that looks like it would be an interesting drive, and you just do it. And
you end up somewhere else for the next night.
And your home's on your back. So, like, oh, hey, that didn't turn out the way that I wanted. So we'll just kind of improvise here. It allows for a lot of improv travel, which we have grown to really love. Just like, we're just going to go explore. We're going to just go drive and see what's here. And you never know what you're going to find. And that's really fun for us.
I guess it's a great way to wing it, even internationally.
Yeah.
And then going to a country where there's really much more of a language barrier.
France, or
like when we've traveled
Spain.
Europe. I think it's kind of like a working up to it sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It would be my recommendation. Maybe, have traveled a little bit international outside of that, because it really is just kind of, it's more of a mental hurdle than anything. Having that conversation with somebody that you just do not speak any of the same language, learning how to do that communication. It's just like any other form of travel, except when you're on the road, you're going to be more into the real
the rural areas,
the real country, not in just the touristy area. So you are definitely going to run into
people
situations
where very well.
Someone rarely sees an American tourist, right? Which at first was terrifying for us. And it's just something you just kind of have to get over.
You just have to blunder through.
And as you get better about it, it's really, I think it's mainly just kind of like take cues from the locals and be as respectful of their culture as you can. Just try not to step on their toes, if you will, and be humble. And most of the time, people are just going to totally come out of their shells to help you and stumble through it. And we've found that a lot of people actually kind of enjoyed stumbling through conversations with us. And maybe they know a few words of English, so it's, it's a little back and forth. And
I do also want to add that right now, or I guess not right now, but nowadays I think it's much easier because you have things like Google Translate, where you can hold the phone up and it'll translate enough of what someone else is saying into English words that you'll be able to understand and you'll be able to communicate, even if there's like no, back and forth, like you don't know any of their language, they don't know any of yours. And like there are tools now to enable or help facilitate that, which is really fun. to me.
Yeah, just learn the basics, je ne peux pas français or whatever. Hang on, translator, pull it out, and then you can get, and it works really, really well. So
Right.
it's totally doable almost anywhere in the world these days.
We had a back and forth with a guy because Tom's phone broke while we were in Switzerland. And we were trying to get it fixed, and the guy at the store spoke zero English, and so they were having this entire phone repair conversation through the translator, and we were like, this is awesome. It sucks that the phone's dead and stuff, but it was just really great because he was, once he realized that we didn't speak his language, he just pulled out his phone and he started talking into it. We're like, okay, we're doing this. And we figured it out.
Yeah, I think it's
the
cool.
biggest thing is, try. Right. Like, don't assume, and do your best effort. And I think most people you'll run into will understand and try to get there with you.
Right. Because that's been my biggest surprise, especially when traveling, is just how people are just willing to help. And then sometimes you just have to be willing to accept that help, because there's some people are just, not as, I guess, humble or whatever, whatever it is. But once you get past that and just realize just to have fun, let your guard down and just let the moment happen. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And you create those memories like you guys are talking about, even something simple as just, getting your phone repaired and not knowing the language. And that in itself is just something that's just, I just love that there's just those moments where it's just kind of stuck in it's just an experience now. It's going to be something that you could, tell on a podcast, or like, it's really cool,
I think that one thing travel has really taught us, and I can say this all day long, but unless you've actually been to these places and actually physically inject yourself in somewhere, you start to realize that the outside of what you're comfortable with isn't necessarily any more dangerous or scary. It's these aren't bad people out there. They're not trying to harm you, which is what it feels like a lot of people kind of feel like might be or are afraid of. But everywhere you go, we all want the same things. We are all human at our core, and they are more similar to you than you will ever realize until you actually go there. And if you feel like the people in your neighborhood are great, I guarantee you that the people in Taiwan are just as great. But unless you're there and physically interacting with them, it's you just, like, it might seem scary, but just give it a shot. You'd be surprised.
Yep. You would. I love that advice, just because that's something, like, we're all human beings, like you're saying, and we all have different life experiences, and we can really learn from one another and pull from their experiences, and it's really cool. I really, if someone's not really RVing, travel, experience different cultures. Even when you're RVing, you're doing that. You're going to these different places. You're experiencing even different cultures within the United States, right?
And I think in regards to it being RV travel versus some other form of travel, why we love this style of travel is because we have all of our stuff in one place and coming with us. We're not always looking for a new hotel. We're not always looking for a new place to stay. And there's no moving of luggage back and forth, which logistically can wear you out. You unpack into the RV one time, and then that's it until you unpack and go home, which I think it makes the place familiar enough that when you get back to the RV at night after having a day of exploration, it is safe, it is familiar, it feels good, and you can kind of just relax instead of like, oh, I'm in a new place, and in my mind, it eases that stress a little bit more. So I loved it internationally because there wasn't that logistical thing. It was, okay, it's easy. I get it. This is my space, and I can take a break. And you could just take a day to just chill out too. You don't have to feel like, oh, I'm missing out on everything. It's like, oh no, I can be in a cool new spot, and I'm still kind of in my house, my little house. Right. So I think RVing, especially for people who may have some reservations about international travel, they might find it easier that way, to have all their stuff with them at any time. And, there is a little bit of safety and familiarity with that.
Yeah, that's great. Cause you guys evolved, obviously. Like you've done, your travel vlogs, so basically full length documentaries, having even a TV show being, on Prime Video and Discovery Channel. I saw it on PBS. So how's that digital kind of evolution impacted your outreach with the RVing community? How has it changed you guys as, just your experience all together? And that's kind of a loaded question. That's a lot of you could choose
that's kind
from,
of like a story, because we've been doing this a while. But Tom was the one who told me, he's like, I want to start doing vlogs. And to be frank, when we started off, we were not thinking we were going to do a YouTube channel. I was going to do some light blogging so that parents and friends at home could see what we were doing. But then Tom got this idea. He's like, we should do a video blog, like Casey Neistat, do daily vlogs and stuff.
But it was for the same purpose. It was just for us.
It started out as okay, we're going to share these videos with friends and family. And so we just started doing the YouTube. We were, very small, and we were just doing
really
our thing.
Bad at it.
Do not go back and look at some of our first stuff. It's not great. But we just started doing this, and it was fun. It was something to do. We shared our adventures, our misadventures, and we went around the country. We went to Quartzsite, as you mentioned before, and met up with some other people who were YouTubing it. And then, you started doing collaborations, like any YouTuber these days, you do collaborations, you do projects, you try to ask companies to do reviews and stuff. And so it was all the small little building blocks of getting this channel off the ground. And when we decided that we wanted to keep traveling, we were like, oh, we kind of need to actually do it, not just for fun. And then somehow we got wrapped into doing the RV Nomads movie, which was another story for another day. But it was basically a documentary about the RV full-time lifestyle. And that kind of...
it was a feature film plus a very large festival that we put together.
Yep. But that kind of grew our channel a bit. And then after that, we landed a project with Lance Campers out in California. They do a lot of truck campers and travel trailers. And we had pitched to them an idea of borrowing one of their truck campers to go north to Alaska. And that, I kind of can't believe they said yes, but they did. And we really worked hard to put together a series around that, a really professional looking series. A lot of the cinematic stuff Tom learned from working on that RV Nomads movie, and we kind of poured ourselves into that series. So it's called Go North, and it's on our YouTube channel and on our website. And it's a 20 episode series that documents our entire travels up to Alaska, to the Arctic Ocean, all the way to Tuktoyaktuk in Canada. And that whole thing really launched us pretty good. And it was right about that time that we were starting that journey that we met up with the producers of The RVers, which is on PBS and Discovery Channel and Destination America. And we joined The RVers TV show. So all of that was happening at the same time. So it kind of all catapulted around in 2019. And that was when it really hit us wow, we're really reaching a lot of people where we have all these opportunities that we never thought that we'd have before. And so we've done 5 seasons of The RVers. And right now we just launched a movie cut of our Go North series. So instead of having to watch 7.5 hours, 20 episodes of Alaska, people can now watch it in just an hour and a half.
That was a lot.
That's kind of the background of our digital series and movie making experience. But I guess I kind of wanted to give that background before, if anybody didn't know, before we said any.
It's quite the CV. It's quite the, it's it's awesome because you guys, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, especially in the community, look up to you guys. You guys really complement each other well, obviously, and then you provide so much value to your audience and to the RV community. I think that's really huge. And not only that, you're not only providing information, but you provide entertainment, and it's not a lot of people could see that.
I think our kind of the motto in my back of my head has always been, well, once we kind of started doing this really with the intention to sort of reach an audience that would be interested in it, it really is to educate, inspire, and entertain. And the education, we always want to throw sort of an education piece into it, because we have accumulated a vast knowledge of this form of travel and the technical around it. And while I just cannot share everything in video and written content, while we try. It's the inspiration is like, if you even have the remote interest in travel, we just love for people to give it a shot, like test it out, because it really is so rewarding and it's changed us in such incredible ways. But then finally the entertaining side of it, that's been a little bit of a passion of mine. I love cinematography. I love a well shot piece. And while I don't have the energy to do that all the time, sometimes I really do like to try to put something together that's fun to watch and is going to actually entertain you. So
yeah, so if anybody watches the Go North movie or the Go North series, you'll see there's probably just as much B-roll as A-roll. And in video speak, A-roll is like your main stuff where like somebody's on screen talking, but the B-roll is all of the like environmental shots, like with these grass, waving in the wind, or, this driving shot, up over this hill or anything like that. And, just to think, we had so many people on that trip ask us like if we were traveling with a film crew. And it was just us. And so Tom's always been into drones. He flies, the Mavics, and he even does FPV, which is for first person view, the really fast ones. And so there's drones, there's cameras, there's 360 camera shots in a lot of our stuff. And it's like, we always are getting new camera gear, new drones and stuff. And so like, there is like a passion behind it to make it look like that. And, we were required to do that. You can shoot everything on a cell phone these days, but, I think that's one of the things that I love most about the Go North series and the Go North movie is, the time and the passion that Tom put into it for that cinematic eye to really try to make it something more than just a vlog. And, there are other creators out there that are just doing amazing stuff, and when you find somebody who like pulls in the music, pulls in the audio, pulls it all together, and like, it's amazing what people are doing these days. And, that's the exciting creator part of doing YouTube and this lifestyle is kind of, you always have something to shoot and you can make it look really, really pretty and tell a really compelling story. So that's really what inspires us sometimes to just go to the next level.
Yeah. And I invite anyone that's listening to this or watching this episode, go to their website, go to mortonsonthemove.com. You could actually watch that documentary movie, the Go North series, on their website. Like Kate's saying, it really comes out on that series, like all the shots that Tom or you guys are doing, just because like you're saying, you guys go the extra mile and you guys try to, make it's just so inviting. Talking about earlier, Kate, where you're able to have your home or you have your home base and have familiarity within your RV, or you have your routine, or you're able to just kind of decompress. You're not, you have your safe space, like you're saying earlier. And another thing is that anyone that's looking for any resources they have tons of resources on their website. Again, I can't say enough about their website. It's really cool. And what inspired you guys I know like it's a way to make money, but what's kind of been the overall motivation of your website, Mortons on the Move?
The same thing. Educate, inspire, and entertain, and you're going to find all of that on the website. We write articles that are strictly educational. We write articles that are strictly entertainment, and all of them we try to put a little bit of everything in. We hope that you're going to learn something in everything that we write, and I think that the website actually has been a way to really increase our production of content, because we can write way faster and way more than we can possibly produce a video. If anyone's tried to produce a video, it is an enormous amount of effort from the actual...
What's the rule of thumb? What's it like?
3 hours of editing for every
hour of shot.
2 minutes of shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's absurd how much time you put into it.
When you pull in the audio files
and
the
transitions. Shorts today have sort of changed that a little bit. We can shoot and put it right up, and we're starting to kind of get into that a little bit more. But it's just kind of it's a different avenue. I love to put the immense amount of time into a video shoot, but I just can't. I just don't have the effort or the time, the capacity. Yeah. So the website has really been a way to increase the production of all that content. And we've got a pretty large email subscriber list, and we just sort of love to share with them. So we hope that if you're interested, you'd subscribe over there as well. We send out almost, it's an option, but we do send out almost a daily email with new information, something that hopefully fits all those things: education, inspiring, and entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then again, the movie, you guys just released that on the 24th, right, of December, and that's also available on the website. Tons of information. One thing I did want to ask as well, it's kind of because you guys have been doing this for 8 years, going on 8 years. Been a while.
Going on nine. We're in our ninth.
So what's kind of, I know that you guys, because with me doing anything creative, I sometimes will just kind of, I'll feel like I can't do this anymore, right? And I'm sure you've probably got, I don't know if you want to call it creative's block or whatever. I'm sure you guys get the same routine over, you get burnout. Okay. So what kind of things do you guys do to overcome that? Or what's kind of been your secret sauce to kind of overcome any kind of burnout, with whether it's YouTube, traveling? I mean, those are different subject matters, but what's kind of been your motivating factor, I guess?
I would say, we've kind of shifted where we pour our energy over the years. So definitely in 2019 with Go North, we loved that project, but we totally burned ourselves out on it.
And then we moved right into the RVers, which it was different.
Yeah. So as long as we have like a different project coming up behind something,
working for TV is different. So it kind of brought that excitement back a little bit.
And then shifting attention to the blog, we kind of poured ourselves into the blog then, and that medium. And then so now we're kind of coming back to YouTube a little bit more right now. That's kind of where we're a little bit more excited. We've got an upcoming trip this year. We're hoping to go to the Canadian Maritimes, which is kind of like an echo of our Go North trip, except it's going to be like northeast, because whenever we were driving the Dempster Highway in Canada up to Tuktoyaktuk on the Arctic Ocean, everyone we met on that road was like, have you driven the Labrador Highway? And we were like, no, but it's now on the list. So like that's what we want to do this year, is drive the Labrador Highway over in the Maritimes and kind of maybe create an echoed series from that. I don't want to put any commitments on Tom that he's not ready to take on, but if we could do kind of a revitalize that, I think that would be exciting. But just changing up the project, changing up the trip, finding something else that's really exciting to work towards. I also spun up another website all about pets, which is my passion, is I love pets. We've got 2 dogs that travel with us everywhere, and it's kind of a way for me to work on that passion. So it's kind of like, okay, what's exciting right now, and how can we kind of incorporate that into our business model? Because we've definitely felt the burnout several times doing this, and we always kind of just divert and then get refueled by something else.
Yeah, and I guess for the travel side of it, same thing. We've made so many changes to our travel. We traveled in our original, our second fifth wheel for many, many years, and we were very content with it. But after our Alaska trip, we realized we wanted more off-road capabilities, more overlanding type capabilities.
Right.
But we weren't ready to do that full time.
So we built out an overland truck camper, and that
kept the fifth wheel.
That's been that's been an adventure. There's actually a mini series, I think only 3 episodes about that on our website or on our YouTube channel, and a lot of overland stuff on our website as well. So the changes in our travels inspire new content as well, and we learn new things, and we write about a lot of these things, but we kind of want to try it all physically, first personally. So it's giving us an opportunity to sort of test these different waters and go different routes in our content as well. So,
and so our next kind of other big project, what it was this summer, was we're building a off-grid camp up in northern Michigan, because we kept the fifth wheel, we've got the truck camper, and then we moved into this is a 45-foot diesel pusher motorhome. Our friends say we have a RV problem. They threaten interventions. I think
we have 3 RVs and no house.
We have 3 RVs and no house. But we are building like an off-grid camp. It's got like a shipping container and a RV port shelter for us to store all of our accumulated toys. So maybe what we talked about at the beginning, downsizing, we really haven't mastered that yet. We're kind of swinging back the other way now. But, that was a really exciting thing for us to start working on, is this like camp idea. And then like we can have this little home base that's ours, and we can leave stuff there and kind of pick the vehicle for the adventure. Because, that's something that we never see going away.
Right. I think that's just wise, because how much you guys are so open to different changes, but you guys, you keep it lean to where you need it to, because you guys are constantly changing as well. And it sounds like you guys have, future plans to do other things. One thing I want to mention, because this is something we're passionate about, is because we want to provide experiences for a lot of RVers out there. So that's CURBNTURF's the one that's the company I work for. We provide RVers a night to stay. It's basically like an Airbnb for RVers, and that way they could stay the night. And then landowners could they get 85% of any nightly stays, and they offer we have what's called like a la carte options. So if someone has if they offer breakfast or some kind of lesson, they're able to have some kind of experience on their property as well. So that's something that we've been passionate about, is just providing that to RVers. And because it's been really this cool mix of people that want to share their land, and obviously people that need places to stay. So it's really been a cool niche that we've found, where a lot of people are having these cool experiences.
So I think one of the really cool things about what you guys are doing, and what has happened in the space since we started full-time RVing, is there are just so many more options for places to stay, different technologies to use to find things that you need to find on the road, new apps,
which to some extent is needed, because when we did hit the road, there was almost a glut of campsites and excess, because so many years ago, full-time RVing has always been a thing. We'll just say that. And RVing has always been a thing. But I think the kind of the capacity and number of RVs on the road were really balanced for a while. But then as the pandemic has come through and the increase, we have seen challenges finding places sometimes and things like that. But that's not to say that like a campground is necessarily our favorite spot either. Right. We love being off grid, but we have also stayed with quite a few people and driveway surfing, if you will. So I think that's sort of the beauty of an RV, right? You could stay anywhere, and that it doesn't have to be a campground.
And then it also, the tiny house movement has been huge too, and like people renting out their tiny homes or renting out something else. Everybody's looking for a little bit of supplemental income, especially with the economy. So having a way to host campers if you have extra room on your property, and especially for people who just love the interaction, but maybe we've run into so many people who like they wanted to RV, but like maybe family things or health things have come up where they can't, but they still love the social interaction. They want people to come to their property, come to them so that they can hear the travel stories and things like that. So I think that having more camping options besides the traditional campsite is awesome. You know, the space has been so exciting the last few years with new technology, you know, Starlink internet and more places to camp. Like the world's really opened up, and it's an exciting time to be on the road.
I echo those, because that's something, one of the reasons why we started the company is because we saw, we saw kind of that problem that Tom was talking about, where it's just, there's not a whole lot of places people could go, or if you didn't, some people just don't know where to go, right? You get an RV and you're like, okay, now what? And then, so this is, our CURBNTURF was really meant to be a tool for RVers, whether it's, searching for a night stay, or we have tools where you could search for, sandy dump locations, dump sites, freshwater, rest stops. We try to make it open source. So instead of having, 2 or 3 apps, at times where you have, trying to figure out things like where I'm going to stay for the night, where's the next rest stop. We really want to provide it on one platform. I appreciate you guys. And I appreciate you being on the podcast today. It's been actually one of my favorite, you guys have been one of my favorite guests. And that's, I guess I could say that with a bias, but
thanks so much for having us.
But it's really been fun.
Chatting with
you.
You.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And hopefully we could do this in the future again. Again, anyone that's listening to the podcast, please go to Tom and Kate, go to their website. If you go to mortonsonthemove.com, they have tons of information. They just recently released their movie, Go North. It's basically on the series, their travels in Alaska. Awesome entertainment, not just entertainment, but, as Tom and Kate have been expressing throughout the podcast, they really want to provide information and education to their audience. And that's something I've listened to and I appreciate. And really, you guys have been nothing but ambassadors to the RV community. And I really thank you for everything that you guys have done.
Thank you, Dustin.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Recurring Plot, presented by CURBNTURF. CURBNTURF works like Airbnb, but we help RVers to find land where they can park when they're traveling. Make more money from your land. Please visit CURBNTURF.com to list your property.